computer. Recording in progress. There we go. Well, welcome and thank you for joining us today on the Heroes and Icons podcast. I'm your host, Greg Randolph. Please find me on Twitter at Heroes Icons Pod to get updates for great shows like this and others. If you're feeling generous, please rate the podcast with 5 stars, subscribe, and share the show for me. I would appreciate that very much. We have yet another amazing guest on the show today. If you are a fan of TV and movies, you will recognize my guest from numerous major motion pictures and hit TV shows. He has appeared in blockbuster movies such as The Fugitive and iconic TV shows such as the hit series Beverly Hills 90210 as Jesse Vasquez, and he also appeared as Kelly Bundy's boyfriend Carlos in Married with Children. He's been in other hit shows like JAG, Psych, SWAT, NCIS, House, NYPD Blue, Criminal Minds, and too many more to mention. Most recently, he's been in the NBC series The Endgame, but he began his career in 1983 at the Moody Theatre in Galveston, Texas, where he played General Santa Anna in the musical Lone Star. He has also worked in theaters, performing in several different states across the country and other countries such as Germany. Among his interests, we can count singing in Irish pubs, but more on that in a bit. He resides in Los Angeles, California, and is the girl dad of 3 amazing young ladies and is also a dog dad to 3 rescues. This Beaumont, Texas native is a 1978 graduate of Forest Park High School and a 1983 graduate from Lamar University in business. My guest today on the Heroes and Icons podcast is the distinguished and suave debonair Mark Espinoza.
Wait, back up. Say that again, because I don't hear that very often. You say distinguished? How do you spell that?
I said, you've been in Hollywood for a long time. Wouldn't that
wow.
Distinguished? How you doing, Mark?
Or insane.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Or insane. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. You did. Well, how are you doing? What are you doing these days? How's your family? Tell me about the girls and the dogs and everything.
Everyone is good. Everyone is happy. The 3 teenage daughters. The dogs are good. They're all rescues.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, and they keep me company. The girls don't live with me, so it's
okay.
just me and the dogs in the house and the gophers and my partner and life. And you know, I know that people think Hollywood is like this exciting, glamorous place, and I would love to have them spend a day with me in my yard, watch me how glamorous I am catching gophers and picking up dog poop. But everyone is good. The 3 teenage girls that are, they're amazing and a little crazy and a little great, and it's a joy and a ride that I wasn't sure I would ever be on, because they came into my life. Like Kate, who's now 19 and a half, and I was 43 when she was born.
Okay.
So it's and then I was 49 when Olivia was born. So that's all. Yeah, it was all. I had friends who were grandparents by that point.
Sure.
And it's been pretty great. It's been great.
Good, man. Well, I'm glad to hear everyone's doing well. Any of the girls want to follow in Dad's footsteps and be an actor?
Well, I'm honest with them, and they've certainly seen me through ups and downs.
Sure.
Olivia, the youngest, just decided she loves musical theater and she's going to pursue musical theater, and I'm all for it. I just want to make sure that she understands full on that it's not all shiny and lovely and fun. It's a business. It's a job. It's a hard work. It's super competitive, and there is no handbook on how to get from point A to point B.
Right.
It is your own journey. So I make sure she understands that it's frustration and disappointment and rejection involved. But if she wants to do it and her heart's in it, go for it. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. All 3 girls are really creative. Kate is really an amazing writer. She's studying creative writing at university right now.
Okay.
Emmy's an amazing pianist. We don't know if she'll stick with the piano or not, but she's pretty talented at it. And Olivia decides she wants to be a belter on Broadway, so you go for it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Got to chase the dreams, right?
Oh yeah.
Nice. Nice.
You get one shot at this life. Got to live it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
You got to take your shot, right?
Yep.
Good. Good. I'd love to hear it. So tell us some more about you. What are some hobbies that you have? We talked about those a little bit before we started, but what are some hobbies that you have outside of work?
Well, I could joke and say it's just yard work, but it is a lot of yard work because
Sure.
this particular house was built in 1903 and there was nothing here. So all the fruit trees, all the landscaping, all the gardening has been since we've been here. And it requires a lot of upkeep. When I was in New York, working on the Endgame, hired a gardener to handle it while I was out of town because I wasn't here for 4.5, 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And he was amazing. He was amazing. I thought I'll never do this yard work again for as long as I'm alive.
Right.
And then I came back, gardener went away, and so I was doing bits and pieces, and I'm back to where I started.
Right.
It's just me again, because I think I'm addicted to it is a very creative thing, and I like having creative outlets. I mean, I used to draw quite a bit. I can get to that a little bit later on because that was my original thing in life.
Mm-hmm.
I love to write when I can, all for my own, pleasure. But I find that I get a lot of solace working in the yard, and I'll sometimes go out there when it's all done and just try to find something to do because it's out there. I'm out there with the dogs. I'm out there in the yard.
Right.
And LA is a very on top of you city, not maybe as much as New York, but it's just a very congested, very busy town. So to have the confines of your yard and your house, the sound of the train going by, if you can hear it, the metro, it's a really calming place. And I think I know I'm jumping ahead a tiny bit, but I think part of surviving Hollywood, part of surviving the business wherever you are, is having a foundation, having a home life or a foundation where you can go and detox or decompress at the end of the day, because it's a very demanding industry. It's a very demanding business in a demanding city.
Sure.
So to come someplace and feel like, well, all I got to do is pick up dog poop and trim the branches on my lime tree. It's a fun thing. It's a good thing. But I read. I try to read as much as possible as well.
Sure. So the garden and everything in the backyard is a respite for you when you're kind of that type of thing.
Front and backyard.
Sure. I bet. Well, let me go. I'm going to go all the way back here a little bit back into some history. So with some of our, as I mentioned, as some of our members of our audience might recall, we both hail from and were raised in the Golden Triangle in Beaumont, Texas, to be precise. So what was your childhood like? What kind of a kid were you?
Two separate questions. I was pretty much a very introverted, quiet, very bookish kid, not an athlete at all. I was very heavy during my early puberty into puberty years. I think I mentioned I drew, and art was always my thing in life. And from the time I was a little kid, my dad taught me drawing and he would bring home a ream of white paper from work, and that to me was better than any toy on earth. I would just draw. I would spend hours and hours and hours of drawing. I watched a lot of TV as well. I love Lucy and the Beverly Hillbillies and the Munsters, all the things that Green Acres, all the stuff that we all grew up with during the 60s and 70s.
Right.
But art was my escape. So I was a pretty quiet kid. I had friends in the neighborhood, but it wasn't until I was probably 12 or 13 that I lost weight and picked up tennis. We talked about tennis. Right. And really became more social. I think I was a very quiet kid. My childhood in Beaumont was, I look back now and I couldn't wait to get out of Beaumont. Not because I hated Beaumont. I just wanted to see the rest of the world. Right. But I have a fondness for Southeast Texas and I have a fondness for Beaumont still very much. I still have friends there. And there are things about it I miss. But it was important for me to get out and see the world because I'd always dreamt of other places and seeing other things. It wasn't necessarily escaping. It was more wanting to have an adventure in life. you know.
Sure.
And I was like that as a little kid. I was very curious about what was on the other side of the fence.
Sure. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you mentioned some shows that you grew up watching, but how did you first become interested in acting?
I really don't know. I saw a play as a kid. I mean, probably fourth or fifth grade. The first time I saw a play, I'm pretty sure it was fourth grade, and they would pile all the kids into a bus. Bring a sack lunch, and you pile all the kids to the bus in a bus,
Sure.
and they'd drive you out to Lamar University, and the
Yeah.
theater department would do a children's show. And it was a version of The Hobbit. It was probably the first show I ever saw. And I was just mesmerized.
Right.
It was so, I always loved storytelling. I loved having the teacher read your stories. I loved reading, but to have a story come to life three-dimensionally on the stage was really exciting. I don't know that I wanted to be an actor, but I loved theater.
Right.
And I loved the notion of, and I understood that very clearly as a kid. I love the notion of live people creating a picture,
Okay.
oddly enough. And I have a story about how I decided to become an actor that is rooted in that very same thing. So I think for me, visual arts and theater were married in a way, especially when it came to theater. I understood text, I understood the storytelling part, but it was the visual thing that I loved the most, I think, when I first saw a play. And that was inspiring to me as a kid.
Very good. I knew there had to be a starting point or a jump off point maybe for you where you saw something or you attended something that truly captivated you like that. But
I don't think I didn't see myself on stage. I fell in love with theater. I don't think I fantasized about being, even though I love things like the Sonny and Cher show or variety acts or the Jackson 5 growing up.
Right.
And I wished I could be like that, but I don't think I ever saw myself doing it necessarily. I mean, the fantasies crept in later,
right? Sure.
But as a little kid, I don't think I saw myself as an actor. I was still an artist in my head,
Gotcha.
Visual artist. Yeah.
Sure. Well, did you do anything, in junior high or high school that kind of led you on that path?
Yeah.
Did you continue
Well,
on with that?
I stuck with art. Art was my thing, but I did my first play the first play I actually did was Once Upon a Mattress in high school.
Okay.
And I was in the chorus, stuck in the back, in leotards that were thermal underwear and dyed thermal underwear. And I had a blast, made some great friends with that. And then the next year got a bigger part in the musical. So at that point, I learned how it was a different drug then. I think I loved being part of the visual process of theater.
Okay.
But I think I had one or two lines in that first musical, and I realized when the curtain came up and the audience was there, I wasn't the shy kid. I wasn't who I was. I was the character, and that is addictive. It is. It gives you license to say something, to be loud. It gives you license to laugh inappropriately. It gives you license to do whatever you decided as an ensemble to create.
Right.
But it gives you individually the license to not be yourself. Now that's probably escapism in its purest sense, and I love that. That is to me some of the most fun in doing theater in particular. It is for me the best, having the license to not be who I am. I guess. I mean, that maybe doesn't come out right. I'm fine with who I am.
Sure.
But
sure.
It's not often I get to play a badass cop or a dirtbag. I mean, people think of me as kind of like a nice guy. That's why I've had friends walk out of shows because they were so angry at me for, in particular, one show I did down in San Diego, because I played a cop who was just he was an asshole, and I loved playing that character because I could never do that in my real life.
Right.
And I was
Well,
felt really capable.
but it sounds like the whole process is most appealing to you because it gives you full creative control over all those elements. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think you still have a responsibility to the playwright. You
Sure.
have a responsibility to the director, their vision. You have a responsibility to your fellow actors. So it's not like you've got full creative control,
Okay.
but you have a rehearsal process where you can invest in different things, and a good director will allow you to do that. And what you get at the end of a 3.5, 4 week rehearsal process or period is you filtered through all that, and you've got something that congeals, that's true to the play, fair to your fellow actors, and is part of the director's vision. So you have an opportunity to bring your ideas to life, which doesn't always happen in TV, unfortunately. TV has to happen very quickly. There's a different responsibility, even though you still have a responsibility to your fellow actors.
Mm-hmm.
You don't always get that level of freedom. So yeah, it is. I mean, you do get some, but it's not quite as there isn't quite as much freedom in TV. Let's put it that way, TV film.
Okay. Yeah, it's just
My experience.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll revisit that in just a bit here, but let me keep keep going forward through some years here. So you attended Forest Park High School in Beaumont. You graduated in 1978. Then you attended.
Oh my God. Doesn't that sound a long time ago? It is. Greg, it is.
My man, you're at 45 years. Is that right?
Pardon?
45 years since graduation?
This year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Were you I don't think you were even born in 78, were you?
Yes, sir, I was. I was 8 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, you're only 10 years older than I am.
Oh.
I
still got you.
I got you. So you attended, so you graduated Forest Park in 1978. Then you attended Lamar University. You graduated there in 1983. And then
Correct.
so can you walk me through after graduation, and you had a corporate job for a little bit? Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I to back up a tiny bit, I really wanted to study, even after having the experience with theater,
Mm-hmm.
I still wanted to study art. I had always grown up thinking I would be, living in some attic in Paris, dying penniless but famous,
Right.
Painting great works of art. That didn't happen. Obviously, I couldn't really afford to go. I'm trying to phrase this the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the access to the colleges I would have liked to have gone to, and the one opportunity I had didn't really come to fruition as far as studying art. So it was either study business at Lamar, or because I had got a partial scholarship through my dad's company, so I could study. And I really wanted to go to college. I definitely wanted to go to college. So I ended up studying business, and then dropped out my first semester of college, after my first semester of college, because I just wasn't happy. I wasn't ready. And I was an A and B student, and all of a sudden I was a C student. And I just wasn't ready. I took a semester off. I did a play. I drew a lot. And I gave myself a little bit of time to adjust to being a young adult, I think, not quite sure what I was going to do. And I decided to go back to school, and my grades shot up. I was prepared, and I sort of learned that it was a means to an end. Graduated from, I did plays in college, kept drawing. I took some art classes, got my business degree, and did what I think, back then it was early 80s. And in my mind, it just seemed like everyone was going into business. Everyone was getting a corporate job.
Right.
The thing to do was follow the path. And so I did that. I moved to Dallas, oddly enough, to do a play, and then got a job at, make a long story short, after a couple of small jobs I did, got a job at Rockwell International, working in the defense contracting department as a pricing analyst.
Okay.
So I worked on government contracts for French government, German government, for the American government, selling them to the French and German government. various programs, and was in that world for 2 years in a cubicle in the mid 80s. And it was just the height of the Reagan era, the height of, I think, corporate, it was more of a corporate mentality. I think, it was the economy was great. Things seemed bright, and it was what I remember the most about that period of time was how materialistic everyone had become. My friends had become.
Right.
It was really about attaining things as opposed to being happy, it seemed like.
Right.
And I was just really, really unhappy, stuck in a cubicle. It's a much longer story, but it boiled down to whether or not I was going to take a job that had been offered at a company in Tampa, doing what I was doing at Rockwell, or going to grad school at Columbia University. I had applied to a really good school. I thought, well, if I'm going to go change my life, I want to go back and study business. I want to go to a really good school.
Sure.
And I ended up seeing a play. I went to interview with Columbia. I went and saw a play that weekend about an artist's life. It's called Sunday in the Park with George by Stephen Sondheim. It's a fictitious account of George Seurat's life, the pointillist. And the decision that the character was making was, do I paint in order to please other people so I can sell my paintings?
Right.
Or do I paint to please myself, to satisfy my creative urge? And it spoke, not urge, a creative life.
Right.
That at 25 years old, it spoke volumes to me. I realized if I didn't do something creative with my life at that age, I was not going to do it at 40. I wasn't going to do it at 50. Right. I would probably never do it. And it was either take the leap right now and follow something in your heart, or just sit in a cubicle the rest of your life. There's nothing wrong with sitting in a cubicle the rest of your life if that makes you happy.
Right.
And I was incredibly unhappy, and I thought I'd rather do something crazy and fail than because no one thought I'd ever be an actor. I mean, I always had tiny roles and things, and I don't know if I was any good or not. I don't know. I mean, I was an okay singer, but I wasn't the best. I wasn't the prettiest. I wasn't the funniest, but I really wanted to do it, and I was willing to take the risk. And so I called the company. It was Honeywell Avionics in Tampa, and I spoke to their headhunter guy and said, well, I've decided to go to Columbia. And I called the woman at Columbia, and I said, I've taken the job in Tampa just to cover my bases so it wouldn't sound so crazy. I talked to my boss, and the rest was just, my boss was super supportive at the time, very supportive and very, very behind me 100%. Some coworkers had seen me do some theater in Dallas, and they were very supportive. Left Rockwell with, I think, a couple of grand in my pocket. And my dad was so mad at me. Everyone thought I was, other than a few friends who were supportive, everyone thought I was nuts, and lived in an apartment with a trumpet player for a summer, doing a summer program there, and up in Washington Heights, way up at 160th and Riverside. And the school I had gone to had a 2-year program, so I ended up staying on for the 2-year program with that.
Okay.
And made some of the best friends of my life, and I never looked back. I didn't regret it. There are lots of times you're waiting tables, you're getting home at 2 a.m, you have to get up at 7 to catch a train to get to class. And I used to do a menu boards at a restaurant called Joe Allen's back when they were handwritten. And so in those days, I would get off school, go wait tables at my regular restaurant. At midnight or 1, I'd go to Joe Allen's and do the menu boards. And then I'd push the tables together and sleep on the tables and start over again, go to school. So sometimes there'd be 48 hours without ever seeing my apartment,
Sure.
But it was worth it. I never once looked and missed that cubicle. I never once regretted that decision. And it's a journey that I don't know that I would recommend just casually doing.
Sure. Because
some people do it as a hobby. Some people do it. They think they want to be a star. I would never say do it because you want to be a star. Do it because you love it.
Right.
It's so hard.
If you don't, it's going to be really tough, right?
Yeah. And the value trade-offs sometimes aren't worth it if you're not prepared to deal with it.
Gotcha.
I think, you know.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. So how did you find the place that you wanted to go and study with, or, you know, for grad school, or you were, yeah, I mean, for example, so you were at the Circle in the Square Theater School, correct? And
Right,
so,
correct.
and so my question is, like, how did you find that was a place that you wanted to go and study? I mean, was it a trade magazine or something like that?
Oddly enough, that trip, that I decided I wasn't going to go back into corporate life, and I was going to make the change. I'd seen a play at Circle in the Square Theater, so I'd called them. I didn't know I was going to go back to school necessarily, but I called them about a week later and asked if they had any kind of internship program. If there was, I was prepared to go just work backstage for free, anything. I just want to be. I have to start somewhere. I'll just
Right.
start wherever makes sense. And I called them, and they said, well, we have a theater school. I'll forward you to the theater school. So I talked to the assistant, and they said, well, there's a summer program. Would you be interested? And I said, yeah. So they sent me a brochure. I had to fly back to New York to audition for it, and auditioned for their summer program, which was I think it was a 7 or 8 week program that summer.
Okay.
And I got in, and then did the program. And I was an alternate to be allowed into their full 2-year program. And then some people dropped out, so I got asked to join the 2-year program. And so that's how I came across Circle in the Square. I didn't realize that it had a fairly long history and a fairly distinguished history as an acting school.
Right.
And had some amazing teachers, and I owe them everything, because they gave me the foundation I needed to make the leap. I didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
You know, I mean, you're banking on instinct. You're banking on some kids just are so talented. They're born that way.
Right.
You know, I don't think I was born wanting to be on stage with this need and this intellect that some actors have. I had the desire to do it. So the training for me was really important. It gave me a place to fail, and I needed that before I jumped into the real world.
Right. Right. So was there someone that you studied under, or maybe another coach or a mentor that you had that was just really instrumental for you?
Yeah. Alan Langdon, who just retired about 2 years ago, was probably the one voice there amongst all the teachers. Were great, and I enjoyed all of them. But he was probably the one person that his method, his process spoke to me. I think what I got from it was he wanted you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet in any scenario, because you wouldn't always have the best director on the planet. You wouldn't always have the most cooperative fellow actors.
Right.
You would need to be able to take care of yourself. And it wasn't an offensive or even a defensive approach to acting.
Sure.
It was be on your own 2 feet, be capable, be prepared, and know what the hell you're doing. And that was, I mean, I still hear his voice when I'm on set and you don't have a good director. And I still, there are times when you're dealing with directors, you don't really quite know what they're doing, or don't know how to speak to an actor. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And although I had worked with some amazing directors, so in those moments, I still hear his voice, and I still hear the questions he would ask you, so that you can feel a little more confident in your own skin, so you can get through the job.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's important to have that, and to have that someone believe in you and give you that direction, especially if you're
absolutely
off. Yeah.
And it may have worked for me. It may not have worked for other people. I don't know. Everyone's approach to it is a little different.
Right.
But Alan is probably the one person I look back and I think he gave me the most out of my investment.
Gotcha. Well, that's great, man. I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. So take me to but I guess back to the summer of '83. you start off at the Moody Theatre in Galveston, Texas, as the you have the role of General Santa Anna in the musical Lone Star. So what were those early years like for you? And then you started doing theater and
Yeah.
cabarets, if I'm saying that right. And then you get over to San Diego after that. Is that how that went?
That's not quite. It was a little bit longer trajectory, but
Sure.
because I did that one summer stock thing with Santa Ana, and it was at the Moody Theater. They did 2 shows in that open outdoor amphitheater, and that year it was Lone Star, which was, they had some music in it. It wasn't really a musical. And then Annie, Get Your Gun, and I played one of the Native American characters in that.
Okay.
It's in the chorus in the back, and that was a music, or is a musical. But I hadn't graduated from college. That was the summer right before my last semester.
Okay.
And so I finished that. I did that summer and spent that summer doing the summer stock thing, and then went back to Lamar, finished up school, and got, it's a much longer story. I don't want to drag it on, but got a really tiny role in a show in Dallas, and that was the impetus to move to Dallas. And then I got my job working at Rockwell while I was in Dallas. So that's the point A to point B for that one. But it was, I didn't really know what I was doing. I don't, sometimes I still wonder if I know what the hell I'm doing, but it was exciting. It was fun. I loved, again, getting back to the notion of having license to not be yourself or to be someone else. I loved that. And I had a blast that summer playing Santa Ana. Yeah.
Nice.
And I still have friends from that summer.
That's great. So you guys have been friends for several decades now?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good, man. Well, let me move on to kind of take us up to the 90s here. So you appeared on some hit shows. You were in some big things. You were in Beverly Hills 90210, and you're in with Married with Children. So what were those casts like to work with? What were those sets like?
I remember all the good stuff about 90210, and there was plenty of things that were difficult and tricky at times. A bunch of not a bunch, but a cast of young actors who were super, super famous at the time. So there was always going to be a little bit of either competitiveness amongst them, or maybe a little drama here and there.
Sure.
I was lucky because I got to work with Gabrielle Carteris, and we're still best friends.
Sure.
I still talk to her all the time, and she was a dream. It could have been a really difficult job, but she made it easy, really super easy. I really enjoyed everyone. I liked everyone. I got along with everyone, but I was also a tertiary character at the time. They had their core was super famous.
Sure.
I think on-set was fine. It was a working environment. It was offset that was harder adjustment for me. I think because all of a sudden people are digging through your trash, or they find out where you live, they knock on your windows in the middle of the night, or the stuff that you hear about that it's a little creepy. And this is before
Google and research and internet and all those things.
Events would happen, but not with the they weren't as prolific as they would be now.
Sure.
With the advent of social media, everyone knows everything.
Yeah.
But it could get scary at times, and I didn't have to deal with 1/1000th what Jason or Luke or those guys had to deal with.
Right.
But it was still creepy, and people following around, or people would come up to me and go, faking it. But the weird stuff, that was the harder stuff. The stuff on set was easy by comparison,
Right.
But the cast was great. Loved them. I will jump ahead a little tiny bit. The 2 weeks I had on Married with Children, however, was just two of the most fun I've ever had. Very serious actors. Christina Applegate is a genius. She's truly genius. They were all great, but all very professional, and all really wanted to have fun.
Sure.
So they were very serious about the work, but the show itself, and I love the show, was, poked fun at the sacred cow of the family unit in this
Right.
country. And
Sure.
it was the subtext that everyone thought or wanted to say to their own family or their neighbors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that show, it just blew out. And I loved that about it. So playing a stereotypical character with an accent like that was a blast.
Right.
I had, because I could poke fun at myself, and they were amazing. And the second episode, I get to work with Ed O'Neill more directly on the second episode.
Okay.
And I think it was his idea to bring me back for that. He is an amazing guy, amazing. And I got to meet one of my childhood heroes. Tim Conway was on that series.
Oh, wow.
And he was on that episode. And I just couldn't stop smiling the whole week. Hey, he goes beyond genius, but just the nicest, quietest, sweetest little guy, Oh my God, amazing.
Well, that's great. I'm glad that you got to experience that. So let me. Well, I'm going to ask you this, and then I'll come back to that in a second. So at that time, were you sought after as a Hispanic male actor? Is that am I saying that right, or am I reading that correctly?
No, I'm not. I mean, people want, they don't know if it's Latino, Latinx, or Hispanic. I'm not offended by any of that. Yes, to answer your question, yes, that it's a much more involved topic, I think, than getting into, because unfortunately, even with the advantage of having something like 90210 behind me, all the roles that were pretty much offered to me are the things I would go in on. What levato? You got to talk like this, And I grew up in a tract home in Beaumont, Texas. I grew up watching I Love Lucy and The Munsters and Green Acres, and I think in my mind I saw myself as an actor, not just a Hispanic actor.
Right.
Unfortunately, the industry, especially then, it's less so now, obviously. But then that was all that was available to me, and I was, 33 when I left 90210, and I'm still going back trying to audition for gangbangers and things like that, and it was tricky.
Right.
The theater that opened up to me was amazing, and I did a lot of theater after that.
Okay.
Because I got to do better roles. But I can't think of one role that wasn't the stereotype for years and years and years and years and years. And I would never get hired for them because I just don't look like it.
Gotcha.
I'm Opie Taylor with a tan. I've got these ears, and even when I had hair, I still had these ears, and
Sure.
I just didn't look like that street thug.
Gotcha.
But that was kind of all that was available to me.
Okay. So did you feel like you had to at times? Did you ever feel like you had to take things just because it was offered to just to keep working?
Well, there's a long time I didn't work. I just did a lot of theater because I couldn't. I'd come back to LA. I'd spend some time here, but I couldn't get anything that was. I couldn't get taken seriously. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
But by that I mean I couldn't, as an actor. It was all low rent stuff for the most part. So I would get frustrated and leave and go do theater, and I would keep coming back and keep going back. I would go back to Chicago quite a bit because I spent time in Chicago, and there was a great deal of frustration. I spent a summer back in New York auditioning for musicals, and I got down to the wire for the first touring company of Rent and a show that Paul Simon had written called Cape Man, and some other stuff that I got so close to things that my heart was, I knew in my heart I wanted to do, but I didn't get them. Came back to LA, and again it was "Ole vato, you gotta talk like this," and it was soul crushing.
Right.
And so I was just jockeying in and out of town, trying to stay busy doing theater work or looking for theater work.
Right.
And finally, back in '99, I said I can't do any of this anymore, and went to Germany and I had a series of cabarets there that I was doing in Frankfurt and Stuttgart through some friends of mine. And oh, it's such a long story, Greg. I mean, it's like lots of highs, lots of lows.
Right.
What's that?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just that, I went from being on 90210 at a time, playing a very positive image character that I didn't think would ever happen. God bless those guys for creating that character, or writing the character and allowing me to help create it. I went from that to, 7 years later, I'm sitting on a park bench in Frankfurt in the middle of winter, not knowing what I was going to do with my life because, I felt like maybe it's time to do something else because I've achieved something people never said I would ever achieve.
Right.
And I think maybe I needed to prove people wrong. Maybe that was the impetus for doing what I did. I don't know. But I didn't really feel like I had anywhere to turn to. Stayed in Germany for a bit, came back, did some more regional theater, and thought, all right, LA one more time. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
And it just started to unfold again. And it's sort of like, it's definitely the second act of what was, my own play, my own life. And it's been a very different journey this time around.
Gotcha.
And that's been 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you've made it. You've stayed in the fight, and you've made a nice career for yourself.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm pleased. I'm happy about it, and more importantly, getting back to other topic. There are plenty of times I turn down work,
Sure,
because I can't play the low rent characters. I don't want to do it, and there are a couple of times I've had to do it, but I refuse to use an accent. I refuse to do that. I'm not going to play into that stereotype.
right.
That I've been fighting against. Because part of the impetus for me was also to not be what they want you to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a battle. But I get stopped every once in a while by younger Latino actors saying, I watched you growing up, and it meant a lot to me to see someone playing a positive image character. Right. So when I came back in 2002, 2003, pretty much started playing, things opened up a bit more. I played lawyers, a lot of doctors, lots of cops. And those roles, I had so much more satisfaction out of those characters, because I knew I wasn't contributing to the thing that I was fighting against, if that makes sense.
Sure. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Makes all the sense. So let me ask you this. So when you're finding work and roles come up, how do they, are you approached directly, or does that go through your agent and your agency for roles? Is that how that works?
Yeah. It'll go through the agent. Generally, the agent will get it first. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll contact my manager and talk to her first, but it generally goes to an agent. My agents, who are great folks, by the way. I really, really like them a lot. Okay,
very good. And so they've got all that information. They say, hey, we want, or this is what we're doing. This is we want to have Mark come and see us and audition, right. That type of thing.
Well, gotcha. There's very little going and seeing anybody right now. It's all self tapes. Hasn't quite gotten back to in office yet.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So what is? Can you walk us through for our audience? What is an audition like? Like when you do get that call, you do get that info. I mean, I'm sorry, I know you just answered that, but before, what was that like when you would go to audition?
Well, in a nutshell, you get a call on a Monday night. This is not an exaggeration, but you get a call on a Monday night with 8 to 10 pages to show up at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, and you may or may not start work on Wednesday or Thursday. It's that volatile. It's that quick. It's that late. Generally, back in the old days, and so much of the skill set is learning your lines quickly. Because since I've had to start wearing glasses, I can't use sides so much because I'd have to hold it out here, to see it.
Sure.
But I would say 75% of my skill set is rooted in being able to walk into after so many years of doing it.
Right.
Being able to walk into a room of producers, get their vibe pretty quickly.
Right.
figure out what, because sometimes all the rehearsal in the world by yourself will not inform you as much as walking into a room of producers with expectations. And it's a muscle that you learn to use, that I've learned to develop and use. And if they have a sense of humor or not, because there are a lot of talented actors out there. And I've gotten a job many times, not being the best at it, but being the most hireable. Because once you prove to them he's not a nutcase, he's got a reputation, a good reputation, he's a capable actor, he does the role well, and you take notes from them, you can do the notes live in person for them. They know that you're the kind of guy that is malleable, that is directable, that's going to show up on time and know his stuff, because it's a business and it's a job. I really missed that about being in room, and I liked having an audience. With the self-tape, it's very different because you're not in the room to ask them questions. They can't ask you questions. It's a lot harder on me. It's more of a crapshoot. It's a really different world now.
It seems like a much colder, much more sterile process by doing it that way, just with the digital part of it.
Yeah.
Is that, would you?
I know some actors who love it because they don't like being in a room. And to be honest, with self-tapes, they generally give you the material sooner. Like they'll give you a few extra days, and that's a luxury, because it really was in the old days. You get it the night before,
right?
And then say you had plans that next day, you'd have to change your plans to drive out, an hour and a half out to Chatsworth to a studio, or you have a 5 o'clock audition on a Friday in Santa Monica. I live near downtown. You're going to count on 2 hours driving back. So that part of it is a relief, but I really miss being in a room with live human beings.
Well, I was going to say it seems like back to your friends not wanting to be in a room. I mean, isn't that kind of part of the natural process? I mean, I'm trying to understand, like, maybe why they wouldn't want to be in a room to do that, if that's what's going to happen anyway for a recording or a performance.
Well, it's really nervy because there's so much at stake. You want the job.
Okay.
And some people don't want, once you get the job and you're on set, it's a little different. You've got the job. When you go in jockeying for the job, there's a lot of pressure. And you have all your fellow actors competing for the same job around you. That can get it's an oppressive feeling. It can be. And it's nervy. And some people have different tolerances for that level of nerves. I don't typically get nervous like that.
Right.
But I totally get why some actors don't want to be in a room full of producers who may look at you like you're crap. I don't mind it. By this point, I'm used to the rejection. I'm used to that feeling. And if you don't like it, I'll get the next job. That's my feeling about it. But I understand why some actors don't want to do it. And when you've got your own house to do your audition in, you do 10 takes, you send it to your agent, let them decide and send it on. It's done. And that part of it is convenient.
Sure.
I still miss being in a room. I don't mind if it doesn't go well, that's okay. The next one will. And I don't mind it.
And is that rejection just part of the process, and that's what you have to tell yourself to keep a positive frame of mind? Like, hey,
absolutely.
Hey, there's a reason this didn't work out. There's something better for me that's down the road that I was meant to have. Is that kind of what
you're always sitting at the roulette table?
Okay.
And I'm not a gambler. I don't enjoy gambling.
Right.
Because I gamble with my life. I gamble with
sure.
with this career.
Yep.
And rejection is my God, I don't know an actor alive that wouldn't agree with me. Rejection's 90% of it. You're not going to get every job.
Sure.
And there's some really lucky actors out there who get big jobs early on, but it's some process of a long career. You're going to have that. I don't know one actor who has not had that experience of constant rejection after rejection after rejection. Even super famous friends of mine,
Sure.
More notorious friends of mine have had that experience.
Very interesting. So in that regard, as far as the super famous, I did want to ask you this. So you're in LA, you're in Hollywood, you've been an actor for a long time. Is there anyone that you are personally starstruck by? I mean, maybe a Henry Winkler or somebody like that. That's a legend out there.
Well, there've been a couple of times. Yes, there is. I typically, by the time you get a job and you're working with, I got to work with. I don't want to name drop. I got to work with, James Earl Jones a long time ago. Long time ago. I love that guy, and I got to work with Jane Alexander in my first union play. And I got a funny story about that I'll tell you off air. Gotcha. But I've met some famous people, but I'm seldom ever starstruck. And I on set twice. I got to play opposite Jessica Lange in an episode, a couple episodes, or an episode of American Horror Story and Asylum. And I was really nervous. I thought, oh my God, because she seems kind of cool. She's always she doesn't put out a lot of emotion. She's an Oscar winner. She looks like a tough cookie. Could not have been nicer. Could not have been more, very, very professional, very no time for BS, very much about the work. But we shot those scenes, my God, because they shot from every angle possible. I'm not joking. We must have shot it 20, 25 times. She was getting on the ground to wrestle this character. That was really her. Right. My back went out that night too. I tried to pick her up. I had to pick her up multiple times. And she gave you 1,000% every single time and was so incredibly nice. And all the nerves went away after we rehearsed because she was just all about the work. She wasn't about being a star. She was about the work. The second was, I did an episode of 911. 911? Yes, the Ryan Murphy. Yes. I did different Ryan Murphy things, and I got this little gig doing one of those jobs where I got called in on a Monday, got the job Monday night, had to show up the next day for work. I mean, it happened really quickly, and I looked up who the character was I was playing with. I hadn't seen the show, and it was Angela Bassett.
Wow.
Oh my God, I love Angela Bassett. She's truly one of the most amazing actors ever.
Sure.
And I was not nervous until I found out who I was working with the next morning. And my entire scene was with her. And I show up, and I was nervous. I was legitimately nervous. I knew my lines, but I thought, what am I going to, what if she's not nice? What if it's a pain in the ass? I don't know. I show up. She was so nice, and she's even more beautiful in person. Like I'm as close to her as I am to this screen right now with this phone.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm there all day doing the scene with her. And she could not have been nicer, could not have been more professional, and just gorgeous. I'm looking at her going, oh my God, you're beautiful. I didn't say anything to her until the very end of the day. And I went up to her and I said, Angela, I don't want to be fanboy, but I got to tell you, I think you're one of the most amazing actors, and I've got to tell you how much I love you. And she was just so nice about it. Gave me a big hug and thanked me for the work. And I walked off like just smiling ear to ear, like Angela Bassett. I just worked with Angela Bassett.
Very understandable, and those sound like great moments for sure.
Oh yeah, I met Gladys Knight one night at a Fox party. It was during 90210. Wow! And when Fox took over the NFL, so it was a big NFL thing there, and they all gave you footballs that night. And I saw her come in with her daughter, and I thought, oh my God, I got to go meet her. I just got to go meet her. And I said, I walked up to her, and she was a beautiful, beautiful person. And I said, excuse me, Miss Knight, I just have to tell you that I love you so much. I listen to your music, and I still listen to your music. Would you mind signing my football? And she looked up and she goes to me, she says, only if you'll sign mine, because I watch you every Wednesday night. I love your work.
Life made,
what?
Right?
Gladys Knight watches 90210?
Exactly.
I still have that football.
That and that's awesome, man. That's a great moment for you. That's good stuff, man. Hey, man, what a great conversation this has been. Let me ask you just a couple more things, and we'll land the plane, so to speak. So can you tell me about the singing in the Irish pubs? Is that something that's expected, or is the norm and accepted in such an establishment? Is that how that works? Or
so have you've been to an Irish pub, right?
Not necessarily. I mean, I haven't been to Boston or anything like that. So
All right. I mean, I lived, I obviously went to school in New York, lived in New York, and plenty of Irish pubs there.
Sure.
And I've been to Ireland multiple times, and there are plenty of Irish pubs there. Right. I have even as a little kid, I had an affinity for Danny Boy and anything Irish. I've always loved Irish music, Gaelic music. And when I finally got the confidence to in my own voice, singing voice, fully, Danny Boy was a part of my repertoire. Always, I've closed cabarets with it, and I've sung it for auditions, and I've sung it for Irish, people who look at you like there's no way you're going to sing Danny Boy, right? And I'll sing it, and I'm not the best singer on the planet, but I do it with every inch and every pore in my body, and I've yet to find someone who hates my version of it. So all that to say that there have been times when, just for the hell of it, I've had a couple of pints of beer and I'll just break into it. Now, I don't do it all the time.
Right.
And there have certainly been places that had open mics, they've had musicians, and I've asked, do you mind if I sing something? And they let you sing it.
Right.
And I've had people buy me plenty of beer because I had the cojones to get up and sing Danny Boy, a brown dude singing Danny Boy, for a bunch of Irish. And there was one little pub in Germany, not where I did cabarets, but it was run by an Irish guy, and so it was where the Irish community in Stuttgart, and there are lots of Irish living there, would come, and on a Monday night they would do a jam session, and I would go, and they would always ask that I sing it for them, and it's still the song that I probably like singing the most, definitely. And my goal is to go back to Ireland, buy a round for an Irish pub somewhere there, and just let me sing Danny Boy. I got to do it pretty quick because I'm 63 years old. I want to make sure I do it with my full range.
Yeah, we're not getting any younger, and
no, we're not.
Unfortunately, none of us are getting out of here alive. So you gotta put that on the bucket list, man. Make it happen.
Live life to the fullest every single day.
There you go. So what gives you the most personal joy in the work that you do?
That's a tough one, because getting back to being allowed the license to play different characters, different aspects of yourself fully. It's not the attention. It's not the notoriety. It's not, I mean, getting paid to do what you love to do is probably, I have to admit, is one of the biggest joys out of it. Making a living at something that you love to do should be everyone's great joy, I think. I take a lot of joy in doing the work that I do. Some jobs are better than others. Some are not fun at all.
Right.
But when you're the Endgame, when I shot that, every director was amazing. All the producers were fantastic. The crew was the best crew I've ever worked with. And I fell in love with that cast. It was, if I never work again, that will always be my dream job. It was a grown-up character on a grown-up show. It was truly my fantasy come to life. And to have had that experience at 60, 61, 62 years old, it was worth the wait.
Gotcha.
It was worth all the crappy jobs. It was worth all the times waiting tables. It was worth sitting on a park bench in Frankfurt. It's very easy for me to get emotional about it, because it has not been an easy journey.
Yeah.
And business has eaten up so many people's dreams and hopes.
Sure.
And so many young people come here and get just swallowed up whole. And I could see very easily looking back where that could have happened to me. But to be able to hold on this long and have had an experience like that, it's worth all of it. It's worth every single bit of it. And from here on out, it's cake, you know. I think there's joy in proving the doubters wrong. There's joy in working with really creative people. But I think the greatest joy is probably doing what you love and making a living at it. And people respecting you for what you do.
Right. That's a great answer, man. I'm really happy to hear that you stayed in it and you climbed the mountain and you made it to the peak and you made it to that point. That's great, man.
Well, there's still some climbing to do.
Sure. Well, that's certainly a very high point then at the very latest, at the very least, I should say.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite movie or show that you've been a fan of? And I mean, maybe your favorite movie is The Godfather or something like that.
Well, there are way too many, and
sure.
I sadly I will. There are movies, there are actors I like for different reasons. There are movies I like for different reasons. There are creative geniuses like, I mean, I love Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and
right.
Daniel Day-Lewis is one of the greatest actors in my mind. And there's so many unsung heroes as well doing smaller characters. Meryl Streep to me is a champion. They're great movies, but when I think of my favorite movies, I think of Young Frankenstein.
Okay.
I think of anything Madeline Kahn has ever been in.
Oh, sure. Yep.
I think of camp, kitschy movies like Annie Mame that even I will pull out and watch when I'm really feeling blue, because you can't watch that movie and not feel inspired. Strictly Ballroom is another movie, oddly enough, and there are certain films that touch you in a certain way that linger for the rest of your life. I can watch a great performance and go like Brando in Streetcar is still
right.
like that. Come on, that's like genius. He's genius. There's so many great actors and so many great films and so many great moments in film. But for me, it's the ones that linger with me.
Right.
And I can think back on and quote that still make me happy. I can watch them over and over and over again. You know, come on, Young Frankenstein, Cloris Leachman, Terry Garr.
Sure.
Come on.
All those things that really resonate with you.
Absolutely.
And then what's a role that you've been in that where you've taken a lot of pride in yourself, like for accomplishment?
Gosh, I don't know.
A favorite role that you've played even.
I played one of the characters in a play. It's a three character play called Cloud Tectonics. And it was the first time I'd had a lead that big. And the character had, a 3-page monologue at one point. And he goes from being a guy in his 20s to a guy in his 80s at the end of the play.
Right.
And I look back on that because I remember feeling just fearless about it. I wasn't nervous. It was a big role. It was a beautiful, beautiful play. And I was working with two really talented actors. And it gave me, I couldn't wait to get back to the theater. And the same thing with a show called Lobby Hero down in San Diego, where I was playing the cop, the dirty cop. I couldn't wait to get back to the theater and put that uniform on and feel that skin, because it gave me, not because he was a badass, but because I felt so complete in it. I was so prepared for an audience and so prepared for the journey of these characters. And I've been really lucky. I've been super lucky. I look back and I think, God, I'm one of the luckiest actors I know, because I've gotten to play. I may not have an Oscar, I may not have a House in the Hills or any of that stuff, but I've gotten to do so many things that people said I would never get to do.
Right.
And I've done them well. I feel good about what I've done. And to to be able to put that many different skins on and bring those characters to life in some really great plays, it's really fulfilling creatively to me.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. I'm very happy for you. You've certainly accomplished a lot, and for our friends at Beaumont listening, we're all very proud of you and what you've done. So,
yeah, thanks, pal.
No, thank you.
And real quick,
sure.
If I could go back to that little fourth grader sitting in the third or fourth row, wherever at Lamar University, watching The Hobbit, I wish I could have told that kid then, "You're going to do that someday. Don't be afraid."
Right.
And there's so many kids nowadays that should be able to hear that from their parents or from their teachers, from mentors, whatever. Don't be afraid. Go do it. Just go do it.
Absolutely. Well, and it's another discussion, another seminar almost, if you will. But I think that framework from being a child, from that standpoint, and getting that support and being able to look at the world through that lens and have that framework to go through life with, and to take that at that point and then go with it is critical too. So thank you for pointing that out.
Absolutely.
Good man. So what's next for Mark Espinoza? What do you have anything in the fire right now?
I finished a little independent series that a friend of mine wrote, produced, and directed. So she's trying to sell that right now.
Okay.
Which she might have some luck, because with the writer's strike and pending actor strike, it's probably going to be a long haul. So I'm hoping that maybe she can sell it right now, because they'll need content. But my job's looking for work. When you get the job, that's the fun part. That's the vacation. Doing the work at this point is the joy. My job's looking for work. I still have to audition. I still have to, get a script, learn the lines, send it in, along with 100 other guys, and maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. It's still sitting at the roulette table.
Gotcha. There you go. Well, how can our listeners support you? Because would you care for fans, people to follow you on social media, anything like that?
Yeah, I don't get into social media a whole lot.
Sure.
I don't know. For instance, when the Endgame was on, we loved having people write the network, or write on their Facebook page or whatever,
sure,
saying how much they love the show. So the next gig that comes up, keep an eye out, keep an eye peeled.
Sure.
On Instagram and I think Facebook, the show that their friend of mine wrote and produced on her own is called Middlehood. Okay. And I think you can find Middlehood, and I think you can find it on certainly on Instagram. I think it's on Facebook as well.
Okay.
And they can tune into that to support it.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I'll put that in the podcast show notes, and I'm also, if it's okay, I'd like to put your IMDb profile in there so everyone can see what all you've done over your career.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
And follow those shows as well.
Absolutely.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
No, you bet. Well, Mark, thank you a ton. This has been a tremendous conversation. I've wanted to have this conversation with you for probably a few years now, and the podcast has afforded me that ability to really kind of get into depth and some other things here with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it, man.
No, thank you, Mark. Well, that's going to do it for us here. So thank you again to everyone for listening to the Heroes and Icons podcast with your host, Greg Randolph. And again, a huge thank you and a standing ovation, if you will, for my friend, Mark Espinoza. So everyone have a great night. God bless, and we will see you next time. Thank you.